Elon was upset that this engineer working on the deal, didn't know the technology well, and he fired him. So I went in there the next morning, and he kind of grilled me on, like, do you know this subject matter? And I was like, yeah, this is how it works. And he was like, great, you're hired. He works in mysterious ways, that guy. Zip2 was a cool company. Elon and I sat across from each other. It was like a lab environment. They were still inventing the product as they were running it.
I remember meeting him for the first time. He gave me a demo of what he had done, which was online yellow pages with maps and directions. And he turns to me and he goes, it's cool, huh? And I go, yeah, it's really cool. I'm staring at him. He's staring at me. And I'm thinking, is this like a trick, interview where they're trying to see, like, can I come up with something?
He kind of assesses people, and I've noticed he tends to stare at them, and it can be very intimidating.
The first time I met Elon, he was pitching Zip2. I remember it well. He and Kimball, they were relatively new to Silicon Valley, been there only a few months. I just remember thinking they're bright, properly self-confident, that perfect entrepreneurial mix of having enough self-confidence to be humble, enough intelligence to respond to questions in a very nimble manner.
My first week, I come in and I see two people kind of passed out on a couch. Okay, one was Elon and one was the summer intern we had. Okay, they both pulled an all-nighter. It turned out that was a pretty common occurrence with Elon.
And we'd stay at the office until late hours, and then eventually he'd fall asleep under his cube with his physics book as a pillow. Elon is a unusual fellow. He knows just about everything. But
I remember Elon, one time it was about 9 o'clock at night. Elon was going around the office looking to see who was sitting in their cubes. And there weren't many people sitting in their cubes. It was 9 p.m. and his face turned red. And he was just really angry that, the entire company wasn't there in the office at 9 o'clock at night.
He worked 7 days a week, crazy hours. And in that time, he managed to still hold a relationship with his fiancée.
He was always talking about the McLaren F1. Cost $1 million, fastest production car in the world. Only 64 were made. I said, why don't you just go out and buy a McLaren F1? And then a week later, he did. When we were acquired, a number of us were talking about where Elon would be in the future. And we said, either he'll be the richest guy on the planet, or he'll be totally dead broke. But there'll be nothing in between.
When Elon, first started talking to me about, the ultimate goal of making humanity a multiplanetary species, you probably won't use this, but, this is what I thought. First of all, okay. I didn't quite get his name. Elon Musk is what I thought he said. And I had no clue what PayPal was. He mentioned that. It seemed like a funny name to me. And that he was looking for a Russian rocket to do an experiment to Mars. And I was the guy he was told could help him do that. The standard Delta rocket, it was about $80 to $100 million. You could go to Russia and buy a similar size rocket for $2 million. We got into it, classic military complex, razor wire on the top, security and guns. And finally we got down to where everybody was gathered, including the chief designer. In classic European style, we didn't just jump into business. We started to drink. And drink a little vodka, and then we'd have a toast, toast to the Russians, toast to the Americans, and toast to Elon, toast to the internet. And so Elon starts to tell the chief designer, all about his idea of multiplanetary species. And here's Elon in his late 20s, and they don't know him. He looks like he just walked in off the street, and they took that as a sign of disrespect. The chief designer was very angry. He chopped Elon off mid-sentence. Started staccato Russian. This is a machine of war. This is not a toy for some young kid from Silicon Valley. And this is not internet bullshit here. We're talking life and death. Then he spit on Elon's shoes. And he spit on my shoes. Elon turned to me and he said, "I think you spit on our shoes." And I said, "Yeah." We got through all that. We got on the Delta flight back to New York. Mike and I sat back, ordered some whiskey, and we're having a drink. We're watching Elon. He's sitting 2 or 3 rows up from us. And he's on his computer and he's working really, really diligently. Mike elbows me and he said, "What the fuck do you think that idiot savant is up to up there?" And Elon turns around and he looked at us, and this is one of the few times he looks you directly in the eye, and he says, "Fuck you both." He says, "I think we can build this rocket ourselves." And he said, "I've got a spreadsheet." We started looking at it. It was remarkable. He says, we're going to build this when we get home. And Mike and I just said, okay.
I remember emailing Elon again and saying, hey, so what's next? And a rocket company? Yeah, sign me up.
Say your name, spell it for me, tell me what you do.
Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Chief Executive Officer of Space Exploration Technologies, or SpaceX.
Couldn't hire anybody out of industry because all my friends that were in the industry just thought, no way am I going to come there, you guys are going to fail.
I think there's only so much we can learn by looking through a telescope, and eventually we need to go out there if we're to find the answer.
The first time I met him was at a amateur rocket weekend, and then later on, he came to my house. And so I sent the whole family to the movies, go watch a movie. We talked for a long time. We talked more than 2 hours, and when they came back, he was still there. I think it's actually pretty smart to do this, to go to somebody and check out the house, right? And you know, the overall impression is so much more complete if you look at how they live.
There was no power, there was no water, plumbing. We had to literally bring everything out there.
The logistics were terrible. Just trying to get liquid oxygen there in the tropics was quite a feat. So there was intense meetings where let's not fail again. He started working with us to optimize the rocket to get as much out of it as possible. He was technically very strong even though he was just learning about rockets. And the one thing I noticed, if people were negative, they were not in the next meeting. He said, a company is a bunch of vectors. Each person is a vector, and they need to point in the direction that you want to go. Bureaucracy and office politics and low morale, it's almost random vectors. He was always about making all the vectors, which all the employees, pointing in the right direction forward, moving forward.
Every car startup in America since Ford has gone bankrupt. There was Rosen Motors, there was DeLorean, there was Fisker, car company after car company, and large amounts of money and a large amount of time would often be invested.
My original role was the office manager, so I was responsible for basically everything at the company that wasn't engineering. We were a startup, we were very scrappy, we hardly spent any money on anything, but we want to launch the Roadster in 6 weeks and go. It wasn't until Zach and Doreen found the faults that we then realized that we had substandard parts on those cars, which quite frankly pissed me off.
I want names named.
At the time, there was incredible pressure on Elon. You know, how are you going to tell the hardest working man in the world that, like, no, I can't get that done?
If someone's always on the hot seat and is always the root cause for problems, they will not be part of this organization long term. It's not okay to be unhappy and part of this company. Right. And so if somebody can't get happy, get divorced.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Speak from personal experience.
To work at Tesla, you have to be a little crazy. You really need to be more dedicated to the mission than you are to your own personal growth. Between Elon and I, there was an understanding that I was in it for the mission as he was in it for the mission.
All a company is a group of people that have gathered together to create a product or service. Are these efforts that people are expending, are they resulting in a better product or service? And if they're not, stop those efforts.
Elon can be very overbearing. I've seen Elon fire dozens and dozens and dozens of people.
He wouldn't ask anything of you or ask you to work harder than he was working himself. And so I just kept trying to nail it every single time. I was drinking out of a fire hose every single day for years and years and years. So it just felt like how we did things.
I feel bad that I lost those prime years with my daughter. I didn't have as much contact with my family as I otherwise would have. I don't know how he does it. He just keeps going and going and going. He's amazing. The amount of energy that man has, like, he can just take the pain of dealing with it constantly, and most of us can't.
I had decided that I had no work-life balance and I needed to take a break, but I remember sitting in a room with him and telling him that my 3-year-old son was calling me dad and that I needed to take a break.
Work hard every waking hour. If somebody else is working 50 hours and you're working 100, you'll get twice as much done in the course of a year as the other company.